Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on a Wednesday on the East Coast. 6:30 on a Wednesday. No, it's not. It's Monday. Man, I'm in bad shape here, James. I
Oh,
didn't even turn off the participant window when I pressed start stream. You're not going to see it, but anybody watching the stream is going to see. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's Monday. I am all rescumble or whatever the word is from that Beatles song whose name I'm forgetting. It's 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. It's 9:30 on the East Coast. It's time for your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. That might be the worst intro I've ever done.
and I think over I don't know what number we're on now. I think we're in year
We're
two.
in the close to 300.
Yeah. So in the 300 episodes, you know what? You're allowed to have a couple of more, expansive intros. Once in a while. I think you're allowed a creative license to do that. So it's fine. And
Okay, great,
I didn't
awesome.
even notice anything. I didn't
Yeah,
notice a thing.
it was flawless as far as you were concerned.
Yeah,
I
it was
love it.
flawless.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
since we're going down that road, I've got some axes to grind. God damn it!
oh no.
There's some
What?
clouds I need to be shouting at. No. I'm not. I don't have any axes to
Oh,
grind.
okay.
I'm actually doing fine. I was for whatever reason. I was telling you this before we started. Like 2 minutes before we started, all of a sudden I'm trying to like plan Fourth of July things, and then
Hmm.
I'm like trying to shift gears from planning mode into stream mode, and I failed to shift gears. You should hear my clutch right now. It has been grinded
You
down to
grinded it?
dust. Yeah, I
Oh,
grinded it real bad.
yeah.
To use that particular metaphor.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Just don't strip the gears if you can help it.
well,
Whatever,
I
whatever
mean,
filter you
I
can
don't
use.
know. I feel like my gears were stripped long ago.
Oh, okay. That's a bummer,
Anywho,
man.
well, how are you doing? We've established that
Yeah,
I'm out of my mind. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Let's see. Happy Juneteenth. I mean, I
It
guess
is,
we're
yeah.
we're
Happy
celebrating a
Juneteenth.
federal
Yeah,
holiday.
yeah, absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and yeah. So I'm back doing my stream in LA. So here we are, kind of getting back into the swing of things a little bit. Yeah, doing just dandy for the most part. There's plenty to catch up on and chat about as we start today.
Yeah, hold on just one
I
second. I just
will.
realized again, I'm failing so miserably. I didn't even have
Hmm.
my own view turned on.
Oh my
So you were
gosh.
getting an extreme close up for a while on the stream. Now we're
Wow,
back to a
me?
standard
Oh,
two
jeez.
shot, and
Okay. Phew.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So
good because yeah, we'll have to go to. I'll have to go to share screen right away then because that's not what I
yeah, wait,
was.
I
That's
know. I just really. I mean, I don't. I feel like we should just like start over. Oh wait, no, this is live. Um,
yeah. Yeah,
Anywho,
and then you know what? Who cares? It's just it's. I think our ones to tens of viewers will forgive us.
I don't. I'm not
Again.
certain. I'm not certain. I think that they're very particular about their entertainment. But
Oh,
that's fine.
no, I
We're
don't
gonna
blame
plow
them.
ahead. What are we working on this week, Mr. James?
I will share screen. So let me go into that. Start broadcast. And
By
one,
the
two,
way,
two, one.
this is the worst Cabernet Franc or Cabernet Sauvignon I've ever had.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I
Well,
bought it. It was cheap, so you get what you pay for. It was a Washington wine, so I was like, well, Washington. I love Washington.
yeah.
This is not a good wine, but.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, maybe it's old though, or
I don't know. Maybe
maybe
it
it's
is.
kind
I don't know. It didn't. I mean, it doesn't taste very good. Anyway, um,
So you see my screen?
yes, I do.
All right. So you kind of know where I'm going for
I
tonight's
do. I do know where
stream.
you're going tonight. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited about the prospects of this.
I mean,
Um,
I am too, but now whether the execution can keep up with the excitement, that's a whole other uh, ball game,
well,
But
maybe we should provide a little context,
yeah,
backstory for those who aren't fans of the filmmaker Sam Raimi.
yeah. Now this, and I failed to talk about this before stream because I don't know how much we want to give away when we put weird Easter egg type things in the cartoon.
Well, I mean,
But
we have so many Easter eggs per frame in this cartoon. I feel like giving away a couple isn't the
yeah,
end, you know. So
and this particular Easter egg. This is one that Eric wrote
yeah, I
into the
did. I
script, and I
did.
loved it. I loved when I saw it. I just started laughing. So I think it's hilarious that the Delta 88 has made it into Calamity Jane's space.
Yes,
But yeah,
that is a Delta
yeah.
88. We do need some context for this, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the illustrious filmmaker Sam Raimi. Um, he is known for including his old Delta 88 in every single movie he's ever made. Now, I haven't seen Multiverse of Madness, so I don't know if the Delta 88 was in that, but I presume that it was. But as far as I am aware, and I have seen almost everything that Sam Raimi has made, it is in every one of his movies, including Army of Darkness, which takes place in in medieval times. So he manages to find a way. Where there is a will, there is a way, and I've always loved this about him. I love it's a fun little thing that's a part of his voice as a director. And so when I was writing the script and we knew that we needed to have some sort of an object fall onto the warhog inside the prickly pear, this was the first random thing that popped into my head, and I'm like, nope, this is it. And then when I pitched it to James, he's like, yep, that's it. And so
so I'm so happy to see this kind of just this is I think this is a great idea. I think it's hilarious, all kind of mixed into one. I just think it'll be a lot of fun. But because it's an item in the environment, this is kind of following my ideal rule, which is to kind of make things 3D so that we can kind of use them in different perspectives and different positions and stuff like that without me having to draw it. And as much as I love the Delta 88, I don't want to keep drawing it over and over again.
Sure.
Modeling it once would be nice. Now, modeling it period, that's a whole other thing that I will try to do. But this one might be a couple of streams, for me to kind of figure this one out. Because modeling this car is not the same as modeling that treasure chest I did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, this is slightly more complicated. For those of you who want a little bit more context, Sam Raimi's first movie was a small independent film that maybe you've heard of called The Evil Dead. I don't know. It's, maybe it has a bit of a niche following, right? I don't know. Who knows anymore? But it put him and it put Bruce Campbell on the map. It is a classic of B-movie horror. If you haven't seen The Evil Dead, the original, you really need to go watch it. It is just... some of it, there are some moments that are like, ew, that didn't age well. But beyond a few, things that are very much of the 70s, it's just an absolutely amazing horror movie that, it really did inspire a lot of horror from that point on. Once it kind of found a voice in the independent film space, so many directors credit that movie with as an inspiration for their own work, right? In the film, the Delta 88 might be. Now, I haven't seen The Evil Dead in a couple of years. I admit I'm lapsed in my Evil Dead-ness, but it might actually be the first character, so to speak, that you see in the movie, other than the POV evil force that is so a part of the Evil Dead milieu, right? But yeah, you see the Delta 88 and Ash and everybody in it on the way to the cabin in the woods where the film ultimately takes place. And that car has been in every single Sam Raimi movie from that point on. The Evil Dead 2 was sort of a weird sequel reboot of the first movie. And the Delta 88 was, of course, in that. Then the end of the Evil Dead 2, Ash is sucked back into the past along with his car. So when Army of Darkness starts, Ash and the car falls into, this Dark Ages battle between night and armies. So that's how we got that in Army of Darkness. And then it just shows up. Like it was in Spider-Man. It was in the Natural. It was in, right? He directed The Natural, right? Or was it?
I never. The Natural with what's his name? Robert Redford.
Robert Redford.
The baseball.
Yeah, I think Sam Raimi directed
that. Huh.
Let me check. It's been so long, but I'm gonna go ahead and check. Oh no, The Natural is Barry Levinson. Which sports movie did
Sam Raimi did a sports movie, period? That's interesting. I didn't know that he did one.
Yeah, he did. For the Love of the Game. With Kevin Costner. Yeah. That's the one. Anyway, so it was a real departure, but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Delta 80 was in A Simple Plan as well, the one with Bill Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I've always just, I don't know, it's just such a weird little thing that I've always loved. And so yeah, when I came to writing the script and I needed a heavy object to fall on this giant, oversized pig, I just immediately went to the Delta 88. So there you go.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's great. Um, yeah, like I said, I was super excited. Even even the thought that we were gonna use it, I thought that was just so funny. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking forward to trying to get this to work as well. But while I'm working on it, while I'm modeling this, I mean, all I'm doing right now is I'm taking a picture, and I've been looking at pictures kind of off and on all day at the Delta 88. And the main thing I'm trying to do right now is just block out basic shapes,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll try to fine tune as best I can later on. Now I'm using Nomad Sculpt to do it. That's an iPad app that I'm using. So everything here, yeah, is being done with the iPad while I hang out with you. But there's something I wanted to talk about since we're on Sam Raimi. I think it's natural just to keep talking about him. Did you see the most recent Evil Dead Mother version of the movie
I've
that
seen,
came out?
yeah. It's interesting.
So is it? So tell me this: is it an
Yeah.
origin story to? Is it the prequel to Evil Dead?
No,
Like,
the
what is
new, the well, I mean, it's not. It exists kind of in a different universe than the Evil Dead.
Oh,
The
okay.
whole, because this is a sequel to the Evil Dead remake that came out a couple of years ago. And,
Okay.
and so yes, I guess you could say it's kind of a prequel to the reboot. It all gets very confusing. I think, like, in the words of Austin Power, I would just try not to think about it and have a good time. I think
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
is the right way to approach it. But no, I mean, by all accounts, it's pretty fun. The thing that I really loved about it was how it took the cabin in the woods concept and
Uh-huh.
put it in an apartment complex. And so it's the same kind of claustrophobic storytelling, but rather than going to the the usual stereotypical cabin in the woods, they take that claustrophobia and put it in a modern apartment complex. The other thing that I love about it is that it has the audacity to hurt children, which
Mm-hmm.
is usually so off limits
Yeah.
in movies, but in this one, like there are kids there are teenagers. They're not young kids, but
Oh, uh-huh.
I guess I guess they're teenager-ish. No, one of them is actually really young. There's three kids, and two of them turn evil. This is spoilers. I apologize, but
It's been out for a while now. It's been out for what, 2 months now? At this
yeah,
point?
it's been out for a minute,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's good. I like both of the reboots. I think the first Evil Dead was done very seriously. It wasn't a
Yeah.
parody of itself. Now, starting with Evil Dead 2, Sam Raimi started having a little bit more fun with it. But the first one was intended to be just like a legitimate horror movie. And so the new flicks are very much back in that vein of more like genuinely trying to be horror.
Mm-hmm.
But they do fun stuff. Like they still have the old professor guy on the radio or the record reciting verses from the Necronomicon and all that silly jazz, and they still do all the first person perspective. When the evil is unleashed and it's like the low to the ground POV rush through the terrain, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The way the evil will sometimes pretend to be regular to try to lure people into a false sense of confidence or safety.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of the trappings of the original movies, and I appreciate that. Yeah, they're not bad. I like them okay. I prefer the original, but then again, I'm just an old curmudgeon at this point.
So, was the new one directed by Sam Raimi, or was he just
No,
executive
no,
producer?
I don't remember who directed this new one
Okay.
off the top of my head, but no, I mean, Sam Raimi executive produces, but I mean, executive producer doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
They could be super involved, or they could just be getting
Yeah,
the
it's
executive producer
really-
credit because they made the original.
Yeah, it's really
one,
kind of
right?
hard to tell.
Yeah, like the new Transformer movies, Michael Bay is an executive producer, but he didn't have anything to do with the movie.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so there's no telling how involved Sam Raimi was in it. I mean, if I'm being really honest, though, like, you've got the reboot movies, and then you've got the actual thing that Sam Raimi worked on briefly. Like, he did the pilot, which is Ash versus Evil Dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
The TV show that was on Stars for a couple of seasons. That was great. I love that. Obviously, I'm a little biased because it had Bruce Campbell in it, and it had
Yeah.
Lucy Lawless, who I am always had a horrible crush on.
Mm-hmm.
I love Lucy Lawless, and she's just one of these women who just somehow gets more beautiful and more talented with age. I don't know how she does it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, just like it's got Bruce Campbell and Lucy Lawless, and the supporting cast is really funny and really plays well with Bruce Campbell and his sort of lunacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that show is phenomenal. I mean, if you haven't seen Ash versus Evil Dead, I highly recommend watching it. It is a riot.
Yeah, I saw the first 1 or 2 episodes, and I thought it was hilarious. It pretty much just picks up where the movies leave
Mm-hmm.
off, and
Mm-hmm.
you just get to see Ash continue his life and dealing with stuff, and he's that reluctant and lazy hero that's kind of funny to watch as the shows go on. But I haven't finished yet, but eventually I'll get around to it.
I've always been a huge Bruce Campbell booster.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved Evil Dead since I was like, God, in my late teens when I discovered it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've read like fan books about it. I've actually read Bruce Campbell's memoir, If Chins Could Kill.
That's pretty hardcore, man.
I got really into it for a while.
I didn't know he wrote it. I didn't know he had a memoir.
Yeah. It's kind of silly. I mean, it's all very tongue in cheek. But I even, they did a year. This is years ago, and they've tried to do it a couple times, but they did an Evil Dead game back on the PlayStation 2, which was kind of a God of War style brawler, which ended up being bad, even though like at its core, a God of War style brawler with the Evil Dead license seems like it is an easy win. And Bruce Campbell actually did the voice of Ash and everything.
Yeah.
But it was not a good game. Anyway, THQ was the publisher, at least. I don't remember who the dev was. But I was down at E3 that year, and Bruce Campbell actually did a signing to promote the game, and I got to see Bruce Campbell. It was so cool. Like,
this is before the memoir, though.
This was before the memoir. This was before the memoir.
Okay.
Anyway,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell's a huge. I love Bruce Campbell. So, he's just. I don't know. He's just this guy who I appreciate actors who understand their strengths, understand, where they can be the most successful, and they don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I mean, there's so many actors who get famous on this role that they did, and then they get very serious and then start, I don't want to talk about that role. Right? Like, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford were all like that for a long time regarding Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got old, and all of a sudden they wanted to relive the glory days, and then Star Wars was not off limits anymore.
Yeah, it was really odd why they were doing that. I never understood it because, Harrison Ford would literally run away from Han Solo stuff. I never understood why.
And Indiana Jones stuff.
I didn't know if he had the same hatred towards Indiana Jones.
After The Last Crusade, he made a very public showing of, I am done with Indiana Jones. I'm retiring this character. I will never do another Indiana Jones.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, and then he got old, and he wasn't really a movie star anymore. And it's like, all of a sudden, I care about Han Solo and Indiana Jones again.
Yeah, of course.
By all accounts, Dial of Destiny is terrible, but I haven't seen it yet.
Did you see it yet or no?
I haven't seen it. It's not until the 30th.
Oh, okay.
I will probably go see it, just because I've seen the other 4.
Mm-hmm.
And this might actually be Harrison Ford's last movie. I mean, I don't know if you've seen him in some of the interviews and stuff. He does not look healthy.
Yeah, he definitely looks older.
I
was watching a show with him on Apple TV. I can't remember the name of it now. It's
that's right. What was it? Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that he was in an Apple TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. He does fine in it, but he's just a curmudgeon old man, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so he does a great job being that. Um, but yeah, that's the extent of what I've seen lately with him. So I
Yeah.
just feel like with Indiana Jones, I don't know what else he can really do at this point. Like, I don't, I was a little worried even to see that there was, they were even working on it. Even when they started it, it's just like why, especially after the Crystal Skull. It was just such a bad movie. It just keeps
Yeah.
diminishing the previous ones, in my opinion, to where they just don't seem as cool anymore. They seem hokey now because of how lame the most recent installment was, But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark still can stand on its own for the most part. I did like Last Crusade, but yeah, I don't know. I have some fears about the new one coming out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, it's supposed to be better than the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but it's not been getting great reviews. And for my job, I basically the whole movie has been spoiled for me.
Uh-huh.
Um, um, so I know what the entire plot is, and based on I haven't seen the movie, but based on what I know about the plot, it's the plot is better than I was expecting it to be.
Okay.
But the overwhelming sense that I feel right now, and again, this is me having only just read synopses of the plot and not actually seen the movie. My largest question is why did this movie need to get made?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I just didn't understand what the point of the movie was.
Yeah.
So because it does a lot of the stuff that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull wrapped up, I thought pretty effectively,
Mm-hmm.
just for the sake of justifying the new movie. And I hate it when they do that. I hate it when stories have, regardless of the quality of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I felt that the way it concluded was like, okay, this is a nice button on the Indiana Jones story, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the Force Awakens did this too, where now we regroup with these our favorite characters years later, and they're all miserable. Because apparently the only way we can bring these old characters back into new movies is if they're miserable.
Yeah.
And so the movie
Yeah.
opens with him miserable, and his life is falling apart, and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the movie, he recovers, but it's just I don't know. What I've seen about it, it's sort of like I don't understand why this movie needed to get made. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
is what it boils down to. So, but that's just me being a curmudgeon-y film critic.
From what I understand, also his daughter. So the character, I mean, Indiana Jones has a daughter now too. So he
No, it's
had a
his
son.
goddaughter. Yeah,
Goddaughter.
Phoebe
Okay. Okay.
Waller-Bridge plays his goddaughter.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I was like wondering, like, why are they doing that? Like, didn't he? He already has a son, and Mutt, I think from is his name.
Yeah,
Like,
for Shia
did
LaBeouf's
even,
character. Yeah,
yeah,
Mutt.
Shia LaBeouf's character. Like, do they even bother
They
talking about
do
him
explain what
anymore?
happened to him, and it's also sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, I guess we have to try to avoid spoilers. It's not even out yet, but yeah. But I think I'll just wait, and maybe I'll see it streaming or something. Before I see it.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, anywho, um, so I mean, wow, that was a huge aside. I don't even know how he got here. Although I do wanna ask something about what's going on the screen.
Uh huh.
So you've got a very blocky form of the car at this point, and most
Yeah.
everything is grid. It's on a grid,
Yeah.
but the window area
Oh,
it
it's
looks like
completely.
styrofoam.
Yeah.
Is there a
Yeah.
reason it looks like styrofoam?
It's the way the software. Earlier in the stream, I started trimming it to kind of
Mm-hmm.
like give it these kind of more tapered, roof and stuff like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff going on. And when I do that and I trim, it just tessellates where I do the cut, and it doesn't care.
Oh, I
It doesn't
see.
bother making it a grid anymore. It just doesn't care. All it's mathematically does is, okay, this is what it's got to be, blah blah blah, and it'll do this,
I
which is
see.
So that's all it is. And this styrofoam looking stuff will eventually change. And the other thing is also, I guess, turn it off, and all of a sudden you won't even
Yeah,
notice it
you won't
anymore.
even notice it, right?
Yeah,
But I guess my
but
question is, given the resolution on that tessellation, doesn't that make it really expensive right now?
yeah, it does.
Because
Yeah,
those are all
this whole
verts,
thing.
basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. And now, one thing I could do, and again, I'm not super well versed with Nomad Sculpt to where I can brag about it and do stuff. But if you see here, I just hit remesh, and now all of a sudden
Oh,
it's
I
already
see.
looking better, a
Yeah,
little better. Not perfect, but it's already giving me less stuff to work with,
yeah, yeah.
and keep it more simple. So yeah, so that's always an option as I work within this program. Now every program is different. Like Blender does things differently. Nomad Sculpt is relatively a newer kid on the block for 3D modeling and stuff. But for the intuitiveness of doing everything here, I love working this program versus Blender. I've used Blender too, but that's much more. It's sort of like I don't know. It may sound a fair comparison. I was gonna say it's sort of like playing an FPS game with a keyboard and mouse, and it's very technical how you do that, and then you use an analog stick to play an FPS game, and it's just a different kind of feel.
It's a different feel.
Yeah, and so I would say it's terrible. I don't even know why I keep using it, but the metaphor would be that I'm using a controller pretty much. That's how it feels like when I'm using it in this space
So you're
on an
saying
iPad.
that Nomad Sculpt gives you aim assist?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, a little more aim assist. Yeah, even though I don't know, I never use FPS games at all, so I don't even bother with aim assist at all. I just never. If it's there, great. If it's not, so what? But I can't play competitively. I never have actually. I always do
Yeah.
motion sick. That's my kryptonite for
Well,
video
I'm
games.
I'm
So.
far too old at this point. I mean, my reaction time is not what it was when I was 20.
Okay, and you and I have had this debate before because I don't believe. And I played Monster Hunter with you now to know that your reflexes are just fine.
They're fine
You're
for
not the
Monster
one that's
Hunter.
fainting.
No, I played Smash Brothers with a bunch of people in their like late 20s, early 30s, and I could
Okay,
not keep up with them.
really?
Now, in full disclosure, there are I don't know. I don't understand what people's obsession with taking the fun out of video games are.
Uh huh.
But every Smash Brothers player I play with are no items, no stage elements,
Oh my gosh,
right? At
why?
best, they'll do the battlefield layout with the 3 platforms.
Uh huh.
And I just sit there and I go, I don't get it. Like, if you're going to turn off all the fun stuff that makes Smash Brothers, why don't you just go play Street Fighter 6? Like,
Yeah,
I don't understand what the point of
yeah,
it is, right?
yeah. Preaching the choir. I'm with you on that.
Now,
I don't get it either.
yeah.
Um.
Now, when we turn on stage elements and we turn on items, because I have all of that stuff memorized, all of a sudden, like everything becomes a little bit more equal, right? Because
Mhm.
that's how I'm used to playing, and they're not used to playing that way, and so my slower reaction time, it gets it's it's like a handicap almost.
Mhm.
Um, but anyway, most people I know who play Smash Brothers just turn all the fun stuff off. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna turn all the fun stuff off, excuse me, why don't we go play the new Street Fighter, because it's a prettier looking game, and it's
Yeah.
designed to be technical like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I downloaded the demo, and it's not worth $60 because I'm terrible at Street Fighter, but
Mhm.
it fixes a lot of the problems I had with Street Fighter Five. Now I don't have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, so I'll get it on my PC. So I'm waiting for Steam to do like a summer sale or something.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I downloaded the demo. It's really good. They fixed basically everything that I hated about Street Fighter Five.
What? So I've been watching demos. I mean, I've been watching people going crazy with Street Fighter Six. What I find interesting is how, I mean, there was a time I don't know when it happened, but see, for me, I'm more old school on Street Fighter Two, and then
Mm-hmm.
after that, I kind of dabble here and there. But I started losing interest when they started doing the air juggling and the combos. Like all that matters is how many number of hits you can do on a counter or something like that. And that became the focus of the game instead of just good old fashioned just hitting the hitboxes and trying to do stuff.
Right.
But it feels like with Street Fighter Six, they've kind of gone back a little bit. Like they don't care about the combos as much, doesn't seem like, and it's
Well,
more about just trying to find the opening in the window. But that's
that's
just me watching from afar.
that's partially true. So, I mean, I give you the whole history. What are we in?
Uh huh.
How much time we have here? We're at 30 minutes. Okay, this might take 30 minutes to get through. Anyway,
Okay.
so starting at around Street Fighter 2 Turbo, players started realizing that they could link one hit into another hit
Uh huh.
before their opponent recovered from an animation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this was not an intended feature. This was a coincidental thing that became a component of Street Fighter. So, when they launched Super Street Fighter 2, the new challengers, they saw that people were using this in Turbo, realized correctly that this was really cool, and actually intentionally implemented it. And that's where you got two types of combos. You got the link combos, which were what was discovered in vanilla Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and then they added things like chain combos, right? So link combos are the ones where you land a hit, and you put an opponent in an stun state, and then you can land
Okay.
another hit before they recover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chain combos are one where you just hit like, jab, medium punch, hard punch, and it just automatically does a series of animations that the opponent can't counter if the first hit lands, right? So those are the two types of combos that have existed in Street Fighter since Super Street Fighter 2, the new challengers. Now that system has gotten infinitely more complex, and not really. I mean, fundamentally, it's the same concept that was introduced in Super Street Fighter 2, but it got incredibly technical starting in Street Fighter 3. And it's one of the reasons why Street Fighter 3 failed to find a mainstream following ever. To this day, Street Fighter 3 is it's my second favorite Street Fighter game behind Street Fighter 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. From a
Wait,
technical fighting standpoint, it's still, in my opinion, the best of all the Street Fighter games.
which number is this one? You're
Street
saying
Fighter 3.
3. Okay.
And when I say
All right.
3, I mean Third Strike, because the first two versions of Street Fighter 3 were okay. You could see where they were going with it, but they didn't really perfect it until Street Fighter 3 the new challenge, or until Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Mm-hmm.
There were characters in that game that I love, like Dudley. Oh God, still one of my favorite Street Fighter characters ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Street Fighter 3 got very, very technical with the combos, to the point where there were several bread and butter combos that were like one frame links. What that means is that when you land the hit, you have exactly one frame to do the next hit to make the combo connect.
Okay.
And so there were several of these combos for some of the characters with one frame links that you had to master to really, really maximize your potential with those characters. And the level of technical expertise that you needed to be good at the game, it got way above my head in what I could do, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, Street Fighter 4 made the Street Fighter a little bit more accessible again. You could be a little sloppier, and you could still have fun with it. But
Mm-hmm.
as it got a following over the course of that iteration of the game, because there was like 12 different versions of Street Fighter 4 that came
Mm-hmm.
out over the course of about a decade, it feels like. It got more and more and more technical until, in my opinion, by the end of the Street Fighter 4 life cycle, it was as technical as Street Fighter 3 was.
Oh, okay.
And Street Fighter 4 had something like close to 40 characters. So Smash Brothers, the
Wow.
nice thing about Smash Brothers is it's, from a mechanic standpoint, it's a lot simpler. Up B, down B, forward B, neutral B, and then the same thing with your A attacks, right? Street Fighter has 6 discrete attacks. Some characters are Shoto characters, some characters are charge characters, and everybody does something different. And so the amount of overhead that goes into Street Fighter to be able to be effective in an actual competitive scene, the overhead is way higher than in Smash Brothers. And so when there's as many characters as there is in Street Fighter 4, it became daunting to be competitive in that franchise, in that game, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I loved about Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4 is the gimmick. So every Street Fighter game kind of has its own gimmick, right? Street Fighter 2 introduced the combo meter and the super arts bar, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Street Fighter 3 carried over the super arts bar and then added parries, which were instead of if you, you could hold back to guard at any time, but if you pressed forward within, I think it was like a 3 or 5 frame window, you could parry attack, right? And if you guard, you get a guard state, so you can't. There's an X number of frames before you can attack after guarding an attack.
Mm-hmm.
But if you parry, there's no delay, so you can immediately hit. You can immediately respond with another attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I loved. I loved the parry system in 3. It's still my favorite gimmick of any Street Fighter game. Street Fighter 4 introduced focus attacks, which were cool, right? So focus attacks basically gave you super armor while you charged up attack, and so you could absorb one hit from an enemy and then unleash without any sort of delay a counterattack on your enemy. And you could use focus attacks and focus cancels to lead into some really, really cool combos, right?
Okay.
So Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4, I love both of them, even though I was never competitive in either.
Mm-hmm.
They were just fun games to play. Then Street Fighter 5 came out, and so not only do you have to deal with understanding the ins and outs and matchups of every character, but the V-trigger system that they added was unique for each character. So whereas every character in Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4 did the same parry, did the same focus attack, right? Mm-hmm. Every character in Street Fighter 5 had a variety of different V-trigger moves, and every single one of them did something different. And when I started getting into the game, I'm like, I don't want to memorize all of this, and I stopped playing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then you combine that with the fact that they, for whatever reason, Capcom experimented with this notion of Street Fighter as a service kind of thing. Everything was online. It was hyper monetized. There were microtransactions. It was a money sink that I didn't want to be a part of, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I completely I lost interest in it, right? You could grind out currency to unlock content, or you could pay real world money to unlock content. I'm like, what is this, free to play nonsense? I don't want anything to do with this, right?
Yeah.
So and also the art style was just basically a mild iteration on the Street Fighter 4 art style, which was fine, but it wasn't like visually particularly interesting. And it was a PlayStation 4 exclusive. So it was just like, I mean, it had everything going against it. And so I didn't spend a lot of time with Street Fighter 5, but then Street Fighter 6, they've actually done a lot of really cool stuff with it. So the game is a lot more accessible. They've actually implemented what they call a modern control setup, which is basically just Marvel versus Capcom 3 style moves, where it's light, medium, hard attack plus special attack.
Okay.
And you can do everything is basically, when you do modern controls, it's all basically chain combos. I think you can do links, but the focus when you use the modern controls is just chain combos, right? And then like I don't really like it because there's a lot of moves that you have to hold down one button and then press another button to do a move.
Okay.
But basically the whole system is designed. The modern control scheme is designed to be played with a controller instead of a fight stick, which makes it a lot more accessible for a lot of players who aren't nerds like I do and have an actual fight stick, right? And so there's that aspect of it, which I really think is cool, although I'd have to spend some time with it to really get a sense of whether I like the modern style or if I prefer to do the more traditional 3 hits, 3 kicks mode, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the 1v1 is still fun, and the new I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head, but the new gimmick is cool, and it's based on at least the demo that I played, is consistent across all characters. Mm-hmm. And so what you do to execute the moves is the same across all characters, and it's always the same thing. So there's like rushes and parries and things like that. And the way they control it is you have a stun meter at the top of your screen, so you have like a certain number of uses before it has to recharge. I think it's really cool, at least what I've seen of it. But the thing that is super awesome, which I really want to explore more, is the single player mode in that game is a full-on RPG.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. Like you custom create your character and run around in an open world and pick random fights.
Pick random fights with old women
civilians.
and businessmen in suits. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, it's so hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, you get just the briefest taste of it in the demo, but I'm like, I am so sold on this, right? Like, I will never be competitive in Street Fighter. I mean, as you can see, I know a lot about the game. I know a lot about the systems, but I'm just not good enough. My reaction time isn't good enough. My memory isn't good enough to remember all the matchups. I'm too bad at playing footsies and predicting, and like trying to bait other players and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like I know all this stuff. Like I can watch tournament level play and know exactly what's going on, right? But I'm not good enough to be competitive. So anyway, the single player mode though is like right up my alley because you can be sloppy, you can be dumb, and you can still feel powerful, and you can still level up and all that jazz. Plus, you get to beat up businessmen in suits, and that is just hilarious. Like this, you exist in this world where everybody wants to fight you in a good-natured way. It's not even malicious. It's like, oh, you want to spar? Cool. I'm on my way to lunch from my business job. Let's spar for a little bit. Right?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Like I said, I was watching some of the demos and they were showing some of the modes and that was hilarious. Like I think there was one guy that was like interrupting some lady doing her tai chi in the middle of the street and they started fighting. So it's like granny lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of funny.
It's super fun. So, I mean, I'm not going to buy it at full price. I don't really buy any games at full price anymore. But
yeah.
When inevitably they put it on sale on Steam, I'll definitely pick it up at that point. But anyway, so yeah, that only took me 12 minutes to go through the entire thing.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good, concise explanation of the evolution of Street Fighter's controls and where it's at today. But I do think Street Fighter 6 is going to be. So for me, at least, Street Fighter 2 was where I was at, and I just ignored the rest of them until Street Fighter 4. And I thought Street Fighter 4 was another, evolution for the game for me at least. And then I ignored 5. I heard nothing but negative things about 5.
Yeah.
And now here we're on 6, and 6 looks amazing. Looks really good. I think there's not enough characters though. I was really kind of disappointed to see that they only have like 8 or something. Or
no, there's more than 8. There's most of the Street Fighter 2 cast. And then a few new characters. Interestingly, there's Jury is back from Street Fighter 4.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah,
really
Jury's great. Like she's a great character. And then there's a bunch of new characters who I all think are super cool actually, and I'm glad to see that they're getting back to some slightly more grounded characters. Like the characters in Street Fighter 5 got so over the top. I just didn't care. There was like a vampire character.
Oh yeah.
There was an actual demon.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There were just some characters that were too far, and Street Fighter 3 sort of walked that line with characters like 12 and Q and things of that nature. But Street Fighter 5 for me, it went a little bit too far.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, doesn't Akuma kind of fall into that kind of?
Yeah, but because he's a Shoto character, right? I sort of give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, if you saw the demon character from Street Fighter 5, it's like, oh, this is just way too much, right?
Yeah.
He's got like these flowy dreadlocks. He's like, I don't know. It doesn't like, Street Fighter. I mean, with Ryu, you fire Hadouken. It's like it's focused chi energy. Okay, fine, I can get beyond that. But the demon character is just dark blood magic, and I'm like, okay, come on, right?
Yeah.
And Fang, I think, is the name of the vampire character. F.A.N.G.
Okay.
Like I don't. Maybe it's okay, maybe I need to refine my thing and be more honest. I just didn't like the designs, pure and
Yeah.
simple. Like, because yeah, I mean, as we talk about it and I say it out loud, I'm like, no, Street Fighter's always had ridiculous character designs, but I've
Hmm.
always liked the ridiculous character designs, and I just didn't like a lot of the designs for the characters in Street Fighter Five.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I do like the first crop. Now they have two expansion packs planned for a total of I think 8 new characters. Well, new and returning characters. Um, so we'll have to wait and see how they play. There's a
Oh.
few new characters, a lot of returning characters from Street Fighter Five. One of the characters I really like, he like controls wind and stuff, and he was a character that I really dug in Street Fighter Five. He was the son of an oil magnate from Saudi Arabia or something. I don't know. It was really weird.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He was a cool
I do.
character. Like he was. If I had gotten into Five, he would have been the character I would have mained.
He had the goatee beard type of thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved him. He was super fun to play.
Yeah. I remember watching videos of him. And he was pretty dynamic and he his moveset seemed really cool. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember his name either. But I know what you're talking about. You know what character was also interesting was the dude that was I think he was Turkish. I'm not sure, but he was the one that put oil all over his body.
Hakan? Yeah, you'll
Hakan.
never see Hakan again.
Oh, really?
But I did, yeah. I remember I tried to get good with him. I have seen tournament level players like just do amazing things with that character.
Uh huh. So
Um,
why don't I think he'll return because he's just too.
no one really liked him. I mean, I liked him because I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
But
I
he
found
was I
something
never
else.
could I tried and I could never get good with him. He was too complicated. There was too much maintenance to do. You know, because you always had to keep yourself oiled up, right? And so that was like,
Uh
it was, you know, he was basically useless unless you kept him oiled up. Like there was no combos you could do if you weren't oiled up, basically. And
hmm.
so
Hmm.
it was this thing that you always had to be maintaining, and it was a crutch, not a crutch. It was a hindrance that none of the other players, and none of the other characters for the most part had, right?
Hmm.
And I just don't know that there's any way to fix that character. I mean, I guess you could just have him oiled up all the time, but
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
sort of changes the entire nature of the character at that point. I thought he was hilarious. I thought his design was amazing. He was just such a fun character all around. I thought his ultra moves were hilarious. Like he just like squeezed you out. I mean, it was so dumb. It was so fun. And then when you find out that it's actually based on a real Turkish wrestling style, it just makes it even better, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I found that pretty neat.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't imagine you'll ever see Hakan come back.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, there's some. I do got. I mean, you have to give. I mean, if you go back to even Street Fighter 2, the fact that they put Dalsum and Honda in that game and how different they are as fighters. I mean, you always have to. I always feel like you have to give credit to Capcom and taking risks with certain characters to at least try something else out. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Dalsum and E Honda are still. They're
They're
pretty
still
much
they're in six. Yeah.
mainstays.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're mainstay. Like they're mainstay. Oh, they like every once in a while you won't see them, but for the most part, there's almost an expectation you'll see them in the game
Yeah.
because they've kind of helped carve out their own version of what like the term zoning character. I think kind of came with Dawson, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Zalsum was a heavy zoning character. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
I mean,
Honda was a
he,
grappler like Zangief
hmm.
is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always appreciate that for Street Fighter, like how they've done that.
Mm-hmm.
So them taking risks like that with a con, for example, like you're saying, I think it's great. I think it's hilarious, and even if it comes out to be a troll face kind of character, like he's been perceived, I hope that they keep doing that type of stuff and keep testing and keep trying different random characters that could arguably break the game, but they don't because Capcom's been so. I think they've been pretty smart with how they introduce characters and put them in the game. They never have huge complaints, I don't think, for the most part.
I mean, like when you get up to tournament level play, there's always
Oh,
complaints.
sure,
And
of course.
but I mean, like scrubs like me,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and
it's
scrubs like
like I have
myself,
no.
and
I mean, it's just incredibly balanced for scrubs. I mean,
yeah, Yeah,
So
and that's the whole point. I think it's yeah. So yeah, now I'm curious like how they're gonna build out the roster if they're gonna
yeah, I mean,
you know if
there's at least 8 new characters in the next like
wow
6 months to a year.
are they
Um,
gonna just do DLC versions of them? I'm assuming
yeah,
or
at
you
this point you
spend
can do. It's a little bit weird how they have it metered out, but at least it's not like the microtransaction-y shit that Street Fighter Five
uh-huh.
had.
Yeah.
You can buy like the deluxe edition, which gives you 4 of the characters, or you can buy the ultimate edition, which just gives you all 8 of the already announced characters. But they're
Okay.
not. They don't come out like it's you're pre-buying. It's like you're buying a season's pass, right? And then the content will come out over time.
Okay.
Um, but then, so that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the ultimate edition to go on sale, and then I'll get that because I know if I get into Street Fighter 6, I'm gonna want to get all the characters. So I already know that this is going to be a spend. But
Yeah.
the retail price on the ultimate edition is like $100. I don't have $100 to spend on a
Wow.
fighting game that I'm going to be terrible at. That I'm just going to chuckle at beating up guys and old women and business people. Like I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. I totally do.
so.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when it comes on sale, when they do a nice discount, I'll definitely pick that up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at least from the demo, I played the demo and I'm like, okay. Basically, I was looking to see have you addressed the complaints that I had about Street Fighter V, and basically in every instance, yes, everything that I didn't like about Street Fighter V, they seem to have addressed.
Hmm.
So
Cool. I think for tonight I'm in a pretty good spot. It is. I mean, I'm sort of. I don't know if I'm happy with this or not. I don't know whether it's kind of blobby looking, but I mean, I'm sure I can kind of. We're like really early stage with this thing. I mean, it's got some of the feel for the car for the most part, but I just don't like how some of these carbs and stuff like that kind of look blobby and kind of bulbous. It's too organic looking, and I need to make it look more hard surfacey looking. That's my biggest complaint so far, but I think I can work with this and kind of short up as we go forward with it. But yeah, that's the basic approach so far for tonight. But yeah, I feel like if we go back to this for next week, this might be a couple of streams to get this one done.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a start. For me, the thing that feels the most off still is the upper portion.
Yeah, it's too
the
high
front
up.
windshield's not sloped enough.
Yeah.
The back windshield is definitely not curvy enough.
Yep.
So,
I hear you. I agree.
But other than that, like just I agree that it needs to be, it needs to feel less blobby and more hard surfacey. But I think the general silhouette of the front of the car is actually pretty strong already.
Yeah, I think it's there. Like I said, this is equivalent to a 3D sketch. That's what
you're doing the 3D thumbnail right now.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, for the most part, I agree with you on everything. Like, yeah, the roof area, the windshield needs to be flattened out a little bit, especially in the front. There's a lot to work on still, and it'll come along in time. I'll keep at it. So we'll see what happens for next week. Maybe I'll dust this one up again for next week, or maybe we'll have something else to work on. There's always something else to work on the show as well. So.
Oh, there's always, yeah. It's a never-ending chore until it's done, and then it's on to the next episode. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, we're getting way too ahead of ourselves, but I am looking forward to doing some storyboards and then doing that and hanging out for a couple of streams, and talking about the script and stuff like that. But again, that's for another time.
Yes,
but,
yes,
yeah.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah. But cool. All right. Well, I think we're in a good spot, so we can wrap up for tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're at 54 minutes, so by the time I do my ending night spiel, assuming I don't screw it up as badly as I did the intro today. Anyway, so you can always find us at calamityjane.rocks. It'll take you right to our Patreon site. Please consider joining us and helping us make this silly cartoon a reality. And if you like 20-minute long conversations about the mechanics of Street Fighter, there's so much more where that came from.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a geek. I don't look like it. I look like a manly man. I look like I go out and do deadlifts constantly. But
you and I both. it's only fair. I egg you on too.
Yeah, believe it or
know.
not. I mean, like, if you can't tell from all the the Nintendo paraphernalia behind me,
Yeah.
I'm not a bodybuilder. I am just a geek at heart. I mean, I did spend 14 years in the games industry. Anyway, so consider joining us so you can get more fine, premium quality geek content. Also, you can find us on Twitter at janesalamander.com. We do 3-tweet stories. Life got in the way for a while, but we're back into that now. So we're doing a fresh set this week. Obviously, you're watching this on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page. Facebook page is where we do updates about where we're going to do streams, updates about the show, yada yada yada. I think that's about it. I think that's our biggest housekeeping that we need to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think things are returning back to normal, so we should be around next Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, for me, it will work. And
I don't think I have anything going on. If I have something more important, then anyway, I got nothing left. I spent all of my creative energy doing a deep dive into the mechanics of Street Fighter tonight.
And then you're doing that kind of injured too because of that opening too. Like you were.
It was. I mean, I had a deficit I had to climb out of.
Yeah, your hit points were not. You didn't start out with full health.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I rolled a critical fail right at the intro, and then I had to recover from that. Yeah.
That was impressive.
So yeah, great. Thank you for saving me from that. Give me an excuse. Anyway, we'll call it there for the evening. We'll be back at the usual time next Monday. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Good night.